So, I mean, I want to start with the impeachment. You joined in with 232 other legislators in voting for impeachment. We know that this is a historic vote, but tell us why and what was going through your head when you were hearing arguments from the other side not to impeach President Donald Trump.
My statement was we can't get back to unity and to moving forward until we have justice and we have accountability. It's just amazing to me. The reference to Black Lives Matter was often brought up, the protests and the rioting. There were some people who were in Washington, and we must acknowledge this, who were peacefully protesting, which is their right. You may not like an issue that a person has, but in America, we have the right to assemble and to peacefully protest. But what we saw in the Capitol was not a protest, it was a riot, and it was not peaceful, it was violent, and it was an insurgents because their number one goal was to stop the government from performing its constitutional duty. And at that day, it was to certify the Electoral College vote. And so there is no comparison between a protest for civil rights to that riot that we saw. And then you heard people say, well, why didn't you say something when there was riots as a result of the peaceful protests for Black Lives Matter? Did you not hear me? Did you not see me on the record saying that this has nothing to do with our issues and that rioting and tearing up property does nothing to advance the issue of people hearing us, changing laws and policies? And, someone said, people are sick and tired of the Democrats, contesting. Well, my goodness, it's been 4 years of listening to a president's divisive comments. I am not a Democrat. I am the radical left. I am the socialist. I am the enemy just because I'm a Democrat. And I can tell you that we as a country must recognize what happened was a people died. It was a deadly riot on our Capitol, and we must address it.
Yeah, some people have asked, what the goal of the impeachment is, citing the fact that, Donald Trump will be out of office as early as next week. The Senate won't have time to take up the issue. So from your vantage point, what is the strategy here for this impeachment?
Accountability. I mean, the fact that the president did it 12 days before he was going to leave office does not negate that what he did sitting in the seat of the president of the United States was wrong, illegal, deadly, and there has to be accountability. What are we supposed to do? You know what? I was getting ready to divorce my wife, and it's only 13 days from now, so I shot her. So what's the big deal? You're not going to be together. Just let it go. No, the crime happened. He led that. He said, go to the Capitol. He directed them. They had on everything Trump. They said, hang Pence. They beat people. They destroyed it. They were looking for members of Congress. I was on the floor listening to this mob outside the doors of the floors of Congress being told to put on a gas mask and to hide and protect myself.
A little bit, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really want to get, your firsthand account around what exactly was happening inside the Capitol, and what were you doing, and what was really going through your mind as this violent insurrection was happening?
I didn't have the advantage of watching TV. I didn't know what was happening because I was on the floor and there's no TVs on the floor. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden they take Nancy out and they locking the doors and they're telling, then the police comes in and said, and this is something I'll never forget. He said, they're headed our way. And I'm going, headed our way? What does that mean? He said, they're in Sanctuary Hall, which is the divider between the House and the Senate. And so they said, you need to take cover. You need to get behind the seats in the House. And someone later told me that the seats are designed to be bulletproof. But I'm saying I was right by the door. And I said, okay, I got to move, because if they break in the door, I'm first line of fire. Then they said, reach under the seats and get a gas mask. We've been using tear gas. Put on your gas mask. And all this time, they're yelling because it's but, and so I've never had a gas mask in a box. I couldn't figure out how to open it. I'm screaming out, how do you open this? And then I'm trying to kneel down, find the best place to hide. Other members are crying and screaming and praying, and we're trying to figure. Then we start hearing this banging at the door, and you can tell it's multiple people's loud voices, and they're trying to get into the gallery where we were on the floor. And I'm sitting there going like, am I gonna die today? I mean, is this really getting ready to happen? And I'm watching my colleagues, fall apart here. And I said, oh my God. And then the police came in from the opposite side where we could hear the mob and said, everybody out, come this way, come this way. And so we're running down back stairways and hallways to be taken to a room that was secure. When we got to that place where we were safe and the police were surrounding us, I was so angry. I was so angry because you know what? The Republican members were running with us. This was not about Democrats and Republicans. This was about a siege on the Capitol. And that's why sitting there yesterday in this debate, they were running for their safety just like we were. It was an attack on all of us. I was so angry.
And there is no both sides to this issue. You all were together, and to hear you say that you were wondering in your mind if you were going to die, for legislators and even media to both sides this issue,
yes,
it has to be infuriating. I wanna move us a little forward and talk about really this. Not weird, but this dichotomy and this, the evidence of double standards and how the handling of the insurrection by law enforcement was handled versus how law enforcement handled the Black Lives Matter protests that happened last summer. Could we have seen the Black Lives Matter protesters storm the Capitol and come out alive, or not have not have seen the amount of force that these insurrectionists did not see?
We know for a fact, and there is all kind of levels of investigation. Had this been a publicly known rally of Black Lives Matter with the leader, and in the case of what happened on Wednesday, January the 6th, it was the President of the United States directing them to go to the Capitol. It was all over social media. The president publicly announced that. We would have had National Guard, police, and whatever we needed there. We saw it happen repeatedly. When he wanted to walk across the street and hold a Bible upside down in front of a church, the National Guard was called in to protect him, and he sent these insurgents to get Pence. I mean, how ironic is this? Pence became the enemy because he did not agree with Donald Trump, and all of his followers, these rioters, agreed Pence now it has to go, and whatever that meant to them. And they were shouting, hang Pence. But when we know a Black man can run down the street and be shot and killed, a Black man without a weapon can have in public display be choked to death. A Black man can have a sandwich in their hand, or a Black woman can be asleep in her bed and murdered. And here you have these people open carry, destroying property in a riot mode, being insurgents. You know it's happening. And the police were instructed to stand down. You saw how passive they were. And then we're investigating, police officers have been removed from duty. We're looking at outside members who encouraged and directed this mob. So it's so many levels of accountability here, and we're not gonna sit back. The Black Caucus had a national town hall yesterday to address the fact that we know that the disparity in treatment was just on public display, and that we are not going to sit back and be silent on this.
Yeah. So the president-elect is to be inaugurated next week. Tell us what you're seeing happen in Washington around security prep, and even at the Capitol. I'm hearing lawmakers having to go through, metal detectors to get to the floor. Do you have security concerns about the inauguration, and do you feel safe at the Capitol?
I had to go back 2 days ago to Washington. I had so much anxiety. We had federal marshals now that meet us in airports and fly on the planes, because the intense aggression that members of Congress are being subjected to, and the amount of National Guard is unbelievable. The gates are up, but I couldn't go 5 feet without running into 2, 3, 4 National Guards. You've seen photos of them. They're not taking this lightly. The crowd size will be minimum. Someone just asked me, then why don't you just do it in private? This is the narrative that we're fighting, that Joe Biden is not a legitimate legal president. And if we don't go through a public display of the legal transfer of power that validates that Biden is now the president of the United States, that narrative will grow and say, just like they said, Obama was not an American citizen. But we must, just like Nancy Pelosi, after I went through all that trauma and was in a safe room and sitting there for hours, she walked in and said, we must go back to the Capitol. And I'm sitting there going like, oh my God, I'm trying to pull it together here. She said, we have been attacked. They want to stop us. They can't win. We are elected by the people. We have taken an oath to protect the Constitution. We will go back and do our job. And she was right. We could not allow, and we walking past tear gas cans, broken glass, doors being dishinged, and all of the wombs of war. And we walking past all that to go to the floor to vote. We must have an inauguration that shows America that democracy wins. The people voted, the votes have been counted, and we will have a new president. I'm excited about Biden coming to the table. He is committed to working for everyone, whether you voted for him or not, for all of America. And we in Congress are going to have to work closer together as well.